Hey everyone, it's the Knitting Professor. I've been working very hard the past couple days. Wanted to make a video on this sweater that I've been making for the past several months, and I finally finished it. I'll kind of give you a little bit of a tour here with it on. This is my leftover sock yarn sweater. I think the everything turned out really well. The octopuses and the jellyfish are really cute. So I'm going to kind of give you a tour of how I made it. Pardon me. So we'll start with swatch. I did make a swatch back in the day. Let me see if I can find it here. And this is a bunch of leftover sock yarn. So my swatch is kind of pitiful, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm not a very ambitious swatch maker, but this is my swatch. So held the sock yarn double, and I just basically got an idea of the gauge based on making this circular. It could just about be a little necktie. I think it's I don't know, it's pretty minimalist, about 6 rows maybe, yeah. But based on that, as you can tell, I was able to cast on and make the sweater a size that works well for me. I'm a little bit, the collar could be a bit big, but I think it looks good. So, cast on, and I did a double, so 2 knits, 2 purls, stocking ribbing. That's what it's called, ribbing. And give you a close-up of that. And you can see how with every few rows, probably about every 10 rows, I switched one color. So at any given time, I was doing, dogs are going crazy out there. I was doing 2 colors. And just to give you an idea, so I actually have some of the socks out here that I wear them and then I pile them up before I decide to wash them all. But just to give you an example, so we have this yellow sock and then this sock. I'm not sure if that's the right one. I think maybe. And I just combined the 2 yarns from those socks. Now, and then every 10 rows, I would only switch 1 yarn. So that's how we get this kind of fade type of thing going on there. And I'll just kind of work my way down so you can maybe kind of judge for yourself what yarn is being swapped as we went along. And I tried to have a kind of a gradual fade going on and worked my way up. I just kept picking colors, sort of what I thought would look good the next 10 rows, you know. And then when we got to the top, I decided, well, I'm just going to end with purple. And I got to be honest, it was a little bit tricky to find enough purple yarn in the gauge that would work. And then I used a white with a little pink. I held 2 yarns together that are white and then like a white and pink self-striping sock yarn at top about. At the top, I ended up with a completely different yarn, and so I think the color looks pretty good, but I need to keep working on it and make sure it gathers properly. So I've been kind of playing with that, but I've had trouble in the past knitting the color too tight, so I kind of like the fact that it's a little bit bigger. But aren't the little sea creatures cute? I just think the octopuses turned out adorably, and we have jellyfish above them. So as far as how did I size this, once I figured out the gauge, then I tend to use previous sweaters as swatches, and I know a lot of you guys do that too. So a lot of time I would consult this sweater, which is one of my best fitting sweaters. And for example, on the sleeves, you know, I figured out, well, what's the circumference of that sleeve, and how do I get to that circumference with the gauge that I have on this sock yarn. And to be fair, sometimes the gauge kind of shifted a little bit, because for example, the yarn in this sock is a bit heavier than the yarn in, say, this sock. So it's just the way it is. And I wasn't, you know, I really wasn't choosing the yarns based on thick or thin. I was really shooting for the colors. You can tell color was really my main concern when I was picking out all the colors. But it was just so much fun. And picking out like the sleeve colors. So I had run out of a lot of this yarn on the body. I mean, I was just using it up. That was the whole point. I'm trying to use up sock yarn. So then when I got to the sleeves, I had to really kind of tinker to make the colors be, let's just say, compatible with the body. And I feel good about the success level. So if I, for example, hold the sleeve here against the body, I mean, it is pretty compatible. I'll do it this way. It's pretty compatible. So, you know, there's some greens matching with greens, some oranges matching with oranges, and etc. And then I did try to make the sleeves fairly even as far as using. I tried to use half, or like no more than half of any given ball of yarn when I was knitting the sleeves, so then the other half would be left over for the sleeve island portion. And that worked out pretty well, except it's interesting that right here in this section, the yarn that has a lot of blue in one spot has more green in another spot. So it was just the way that the self-striping worked out. That yarn is from these socks. So as you could tell, you know, it had sections where it's a ton of blue, sections where it's a ton of green. And the pooling worked out to reflect that, obviously, in the sweater. As I was playing with, so the grand majority of this yarn is superwash. It's really kind of slinky and you know, it feels like a giant sock in a way. I do like the drape. I wouldn't normally knit a sweater out of superwash, not that I haven't done it, because guess what? That's what this one's made of. But the drape is kind of fun, especially with the sock yarn, and I like the stretchiness. This sweater is incredibly stretchy, so that's kind of fun. I feel like I'll be able to wear it very easily, you know. So, you know, superwash yarn socks, it's just kind of what I do, because that's how you get the saturated colors. And let's face it, you know, I mean, these socks I actually finished fairly recently. I love that color. I've got this pink guy going on. I mean, I wear the crap out of these socks, and one of the reasons for that is because, guess what? The colors are a heck of a lot of fun. I do have a few more, you know, subdued ones, but I'm not even sure they entered into the sweater. I may have to do a sweater that's made of subdued sock yarn. And here's something else that's crazy. So this is the bucket that I was getting. It says old sock. This is what I was getting the sock yarn out of. Look how full it still is. It's still like bursting. I just can't believe that's how many socks I've knit over the years. Probably been knitting socks for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And to be fair, some of this yarn I got from another knitter who was getting rid of some sock yarn. And so it's kind of languishing in here. And I did use some of her yarn that I had not knit socks out of, because guess what? I needed the colors. So as far as integrating, like, I did very little sewing in of ends, because as I was going along, I knit the sweater really casually. I just wanted it to be fun. I really have been needing that lately for the past year. So instead of like leaving a tail, I would just basically hold 4 strands of sock yarn together. So I would just add the new yarn held double onto what I had left of the previous yarn and just knit it together. And that's how I knit in the ends. So there are a few places where I'm going to have to get some scissors, because I might have like a little tiny end just kind of hanging out there that I need to cut off, because sometimes the teeny leftover end ended up on the outside of the sweater instead of the inside. But the end effect of that was that I had very little in the way of ends to sew in, which was quite cool. So there's a lot of math. I don't know how many of you do Colorwork yokes. And my first sweater that I made, one of you came on and you're like, why don't you do your sweaters top down? I'm like, well, because I just never have. And I don't know, I'm afraid to. So it's like the whole, oh, it's new, you know. My first sweater, I generally follow Icelandic patterns. That's just what I do. My first sweater I ever made was bottom up. And I figured that out, and I was like, okay, I can do this again. And so grand majority of all my sweaters are bottom up sweaters. They're like 3 that, like, I did a Henley. I mean, even that was bottom up, but it was different. I have one where I steeked, and did the casting on new sleeves, at the top with these steeped armholes and that kind of thing. That was my seagull sweater, the turquoise one that y'all have seen from time to time. But as far as, a couple of you were asking, well, where did the motifs come? And that's a fun story, because when I was in Stockholm in August, I was, as you know, struggling to find like yarn stores and the variety, and I really wanted to find Swedish yarn, and there's not a whole lot of it. There's a little bit. It's not right in Stockholm. Norway, different story, right? Norway. In fact, I want to go to Oslo really bad. I'm toying with just booking that trip. In any case, wherever I could find anything remotely interesting that related to knitting, I even picked up a nail binding kit at a museum. The one, if you are familiar with Stockholm, the Vasa boat, the Baroque boat that sank just within hours of its maiden voyage. So that's, if you ever go to Stockholm, that's a very interesting museum. And they were emphasizing traditional crafts in their book section. So I thought, this is great. And they had this book. So that means hen knitting. I think it just means hen knitting forever, which, yay, hen knitting forever. This is, you could just see, like, from the garments that are pictured here on the front, how many motifs are contained in this book. And you can obviously see the octopuses right on the front. And I was just drawn to those. As I was making this sweater, so I kept reporting on my progress, and my German viewers in particular. I'm going to do a German version of this for you guys. Oh, shit, they're unicorns. I might have to do those unicorns. So in any case, they're like, that looks like seawater, like when it was there, right? It's kind of dying. The coral reef would have been very colorful, and I was like, what creatures should I do? I've done cats, I've done sheep, I've done, here's my sheep sweater, I've done birds, and a lot of you from Germany were like, yeah, you should definitely do the sea creatures. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And this book had like the best variety of options of patterns. I don't know if, obviously it's copyright. I'm not going to show you the designs, but I'm just going to try to see if I can come up with here a couple more pictures of the motifs that are applicable. Well, here we see the jellyfish. So here's a picture of a sweater in this book with the jellyfish. And I was drawn to those as well. I was like, who in the heck has a sweater with a jellyfish on them? And there are all kinds of things on this one. I think I have a dog hair on my nose. There's nothing new. So I was drawn to that. There are a lot of cool patterns in here too. Look at that one. Different ways of going about the color work and patching things together. But in the back, there's this whole sort of motif dictionary, and it's organized by stitch count width. So you start, and it's like 2 to 6 stitches across, and then in the end, it has 32 stitches across. So there's the octopus pattern is at the end, it's 32 stitches across. So mathematically, what I was dealing with, I wonder if there's a better picture here. I could probably actually just hold the sweater. Was I had to space out the octopuses so that, because I had to start the decreases for the yoke right at the top of the head of the octopuses. So I kind of, actually no, more like at the eyes. So I kind of like that. I realized that I had enough, width in the stitches between the octopuses to decrease, and I would just like count how many decreases do I have to have like total, and then how frequently do I need to have them. And I was able to make it so that I could do decreases. I think I might have like every 7th stitch I knit together with the 8th stitch or something like that. And I just had to change the tentacles just a hair to make that work. But it's just like a little math problem to figure out, well, how can I decrease? And then I did another decrease at the top of the octopus's head. And then I did another decrease where the jellyfish legs turned into stripes. And then another decrease where their heads began, and then more decreases at the top. So it's just a little bit of mathematical puzzle, And the model I use for that, I have a sweater pattern. I think it's the Tyndall, something like that. It's a sweater I made with some Noro yarn back in the day. Icelandic again. And I just use, repeatedly, I've referred to that particular pattern. I must have bought it on Ravelry for the decreases, because I think it also informed this sweater. Like when I made this sweater, I couldn't totally follow the pattern because when I got up to here, the depth of the yoke wasn't going to be big enough. I literally measured the depth of the yoke, I think it was on this sweater, and I found it was 10 inches. So when I got to 9.5 inches on this sweater, I was like, oh, I've really got to get ready for the collar. So that's how I knew that I had to, keep decreasing to the point where I would have a collar, rib knit collar that would work. So yeah, that's more or less the story of how I made this. I just finished Kitchenering the armholes. I'm getting better and better. And I always refer to the same video. I think it's one originally made by the Grocery Girls. It's like probably 7 or 8 years old. But I think, and I haven't even blacked this sweater yet because I was so excited to show you guys. But I can't really tell where the Kitchener is. Maybe you can. But that's just so miraculous because you can just, with a needle and yarn, you can do the pattern, and then, it just looks like it was all knit in one sequence. The Kitchener stitch is just so awesome. You can probably see here where it's gathered a little bit. I had to kind of sew things so that the hole would disappear. But that's what I finished. And again, I want to tinker a little bit with the neck. It's just a little bit more open than I want. And the yarn I ended up with, so I was running out of purple yarn, but I wasn't going to not use purple. And I ended up at the top with a yarn that is probably not like ideal, but the whole goal was for this whole sweater, I'm not going to buy new yarn. I'm going to use the yarn I have. And I have this, it's 40% shredded sari silk, and the rest is wool. And surprisingly, it breaks easily. So for that reason, I'm going to tinker with the neck and make sure it's the width that I want it to be. Very interesting yarn, Himalaya yarn from Tibet. Can't make it stop wiggling. Must be getting old. In any case, I'm just excited. By the way, needle size on holding the 2 yarns double. I used a 5 for the ribbing at the bottom, and then 7s throughout the rest of the project. So I probably should have gone down in needle size for the color, but I forget. I do that a lot. And like I say, I was just really excited to get it done. It just looks so cute. I think I'm going to enjoy wearing this a lot. It's going to be a really fun item to have in my wardrobe. It's very comfortable. Like I say, it's squishy and flexible, and it kind of dances, and the colors make me happy. And it has just enough of like a rainbow allure, I think, to suit me and my vibe. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any more questions about how I made my leftover sock yarn sweater, don't hesitate to ask. I'm probably going to do this again. I've got more socks to knit. Y'all know how many I'm knitting. And they're just as crazy colors as the ones I've already knit. And as you saw, I still have a huge bucket of leftover yarn. So it's not going to be a problem to come up with another version. It was just a really fun project. And I needed that, like I say, this year, in the winter, to keep me going. I was really flagging there with my knitting mojo for a bit. In fact, one of the things that I did, let me just get out of the view here for just a second. I showed you all this on a short. I finished this yarn, and that was another project that I managed to get done. And it was a labor of love, too, from the standpoint of just the meditative aspect. And when I get to spinning something, because of that rhythmic treadling, and I'll sit there and I'm listening to beautiful music, I can just sit there for 2 hours and just spin. Makes me really happy. But this was quite the project because, and some of you already saw the short, so I explained, but I started off with skirted wool. It was very dirty. I had to wash it quite a bit. You can see there's still, even after all the treatment, there's still veg matter in there. But there's so little now, I'm to the point where I can just kind of pick out the remaining little pieces. If necessary, I can use tweezers. But I washed it a lot, and I didn't want to like overwash it, didn't want to like dry it out or felt it. And then carded it on my little brother drum carder that my twins gave me, and that released a lot of dirt too. But I realized the finished product when I got that part done was just so soft. I mean, it was just gloriously soft. And when I was spinning it, was like, it's not as soft. That's the thing about spinning, is you have to sort of work your way through the parts of the process and how it transforms the wool. Because when I had the singles, they no longer felt as soft. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? But then when I did the S twist and I applied it, then the softness came back. And as you can tell, it's just a beautiful plump wool. I had to wash it a couple extra times when I was finished spinning it to release more of the dirt. And I didn't wait till the water got crystal clear. That's pointless. But I did wait until it got fairly clear. And the result, I'm just really thrilled with this. And as you can see, I think I'm getting pretty good at spinning. I had a lot of problems when I was starting to spin with tension. But for example, when I was applying this, nothing broke. It never broke. When I was, I have a tensioned lace cape, and a lot of times one of the strands will break and I'll have to kind of retrieve it. Didn't even. So I spun it really evenly. And in spite of, and there are a couple of spots on the wool where, it was just a little bit, I didn't waste much. I probably could have thrown a little bit more of it away when I was carding it, but I didn't want to waste it, and I think it's fine. I mean, it is hand spun, but I'm really pleased with how it turned out. So those are my completed projects over the past several months of just trying to gut it through. For those of you who follow the kinds of channels that I do, I listened to Parkrose Permaculture tonight, and I was really sort of encouraged by that. And it's really helpful to have these voices that remind us not to despair, because I was kind of, after Alex Preddy, I was really kind of despairing. I was in a dark place. I was like, man, I was starting to look up, how can I move to France? Honestly, I know French, I know German, my ancestors have been here since 1632. So it felt good to be motivated to work on this, to get back to my sweater project. And now I'm so thrilled that I can enjoy wearing it. So I hope you guys are also in a position to where you can keep going with your ambitions, your projects, the things that make you happy, that you can find joy, take a respite from the crazy, insane news, and create beauty and joy in your life and the lives of people around you. I look forward to showing this off tomorrow at the Fiber Guild meeting. I think I'm going to wear it. They're going to be like, whoa. So I hope you have the same opportunity to do that, to show off your knitting. You guys take care, and I'll be back with more later. Ciao.